if we don't improve our pace of progress, I'm definitely, going to be dead before we go to Mars. The whole purpose of SpaceX is really to help make life multiplanetary. Well, we're building a production line. Production line is the hard part. Making one of something is well, at this point, frankly, designing rockets is not that hard. Especially if it's an expendable rocket, it's not really a hard problem. You can literally read books that'll tell you exactly how to do it. The hard part is now actually building that thing even once is hard. Then building a production line is 1,000% harder. There's really just one thing that matters, that is a fully and rapidly reusable rocket. That's the one thing that matters. And it needs to be reasonably big, or your payload to non-payload ratio will be kind of whacked. Won't be good. So just like you wouldn't want a super tanker growing, container ships, you have a container ship with thousands of containers. You don't, have like a bunch of tiny ships with little outboards on them cruising across the Pacific. That would be silly. So you have big ships when you want to go long distances with serious cargo. So we need a fairly big, but definitely rapidly and completely reusable rocket. This is the fundamental thing. Without that, we're going nowhere. I think we want to aim for a capability of 3 flights a day for the ship.
Wow.
You need to also have orbital refilling or retanking. That's fundamental. Because then you can essentially recoup all of your mass fraction delta V in Earth orbit. You can leave with full tanks. Using the moon would be like, okay, if you want to cross the Atlantic, maybe you want to go to Iceland, probably not, But, to visit, sure, but it's not like a mandatory stop,
Yeah.
For a reusable vehicle, you now need 0 heat shielding on the leeward side. Normally you need some heat shielding just due to radiative heating on the back. So you don't have a lot of convective heating at hypersonic, but you have radiative heating. And then you can thin out the windward side of the heat shield, because the thickness of the heat shield tile is driven by the temperature on the backside of the tile where it mounts the primary structure. So if your primary structure can take a high heat, that means you can thin out the tile. So think of it like these, like oven mitts or something.
Right.
If you have how hot can your hand go, and that sets how thick your oven mitt is.
Right.
The revenue potential of launching satellites, servicing the space station, and whatnot, that's taps out around $3 billion a year. But I think providing broadband is more like an order of magnitude more than that, probably $30 billion a year, as a rough approximation. And we're still probably below 5% at that point. So it's not like, I want to be clear, it's not like Starlink is some huge threat to telcos. I want to be super clear, it is not. In fact, it will be helpful to telcos, because Starlink will serve the hardest to serve customers that telcos otherwise have trouble doing with landlines, or even with cell radio stations, with cell towers. 5G is great for high density situations, like being here in DC or New York, San Francisco, that kind of thing. 5G is great for high density situations, but it's actually not great for the countryside. For rural areas, it's not great. You need range, and so any kind of sparse environment, 5G is really not well suited. But it's great for city dense city situations. So Starlink will effectively serve the 3 or 4% hardest to reach customers for telcos, or people who simply have no connectivity right now, or the connectivity is really bad. So I think it will be actually helpful and take a significant load off the traditional telcos.
Okay.
And we're targeting latency below 20 milliseconds. So somebody could play a fast response video game at a competitive level.
Right.
Like that's the threshold for the latency. The ground equipment just looks like, well, I guess, like I said, I think it looks like looks like a UFO on a stick. So at least the version 1 of the user terminal will actually have actuators on it so that it can improve the pointing accuracy. So you don't have to. It's very important that you don't need a specialist or something to install. The goal is that the instructions in the box there's just 2 instructions and they can be done in either order. Point at sky, plug in. I am confident that we will not cause any impact whatsoever in astronomical discoveries. 0. That's my prediction.
So you're not launching them?
We'll take corrective action if it's above 0.